Welcome to Medieval Wargamer. Today we take to the tabletop to refight the Battle of Morlaix, a clash of arms, nerve and command. Will history repeat itself, or will the fortunes of war be rewritten on the gaming table? Let's find out.
The Battle of Morlaix. Background. John III, Duke of Brittany, died on the 30th of April 1341, leaving a succession dispute between his half-brother John de Montfort and the husband of his niece, Charles de Blois. Charles was related to the King of France, John II, and although Brittany maintained many rights and privileges, it was still very much part of France. Charles was expected to become Duke no matter what the legal niceties were. On the death of John III, Montfort acted much more quickly than his rival, seizing the major towns and cities, along with the substantial ducal treasury. Although sentiment in the more prosperous and Francophile east of the duchy was favourable to Blois, his inactivity prompted a general, if cautious, acceptance of the Montfort position. By September, Blois invaded the duchy with sizable French support. Montfort attempted to hold out in Nantes, but following a siege, Montfort was taken prisoner and interred in Paris. Prior to this, Montfort had been in contact with Edward III, seeking support for his claim. Brittany held a strategic position on the sea route between England and Gascony, so the prospect of an alliance was attractive to Edward. Montfort's wife, Joanna, had retained control of the ducal treasury and was able to hold out in the west of Brittany, in the port of Brest, where she was besieged by a large French army supported by 14 Genoese galleys lying off the town. The English had great difficulty in getting together adequate shipping, so an advance force was dispatched under William de Bohun, the Earl of Northampton. He achieved complete surprise, burnt 11 of the French galleys, and the French forces scattered without a battle being fought. Furthermore, the slow build-up of troops and ships in English ports had a further effect, as French spies assumed that these would be heading for Flanders. To counter this perceived threat, the men who had been sent to Brittany to support Blois were recalled to northern France. Pre-battle. Capturing a suitable port on the north coast of Brittany was deemed essential to make passage easier for supplies and reinforcements from England, and Morlaix was selected. The English army, with Breton support, was unsuccessful in its initial assault and settled down for a siege. Blois hastened to relieve the town, so to avoid being trapped between the main French force and sorties from the town, Northampton marched to meet him. He had selected a good defensive position, which he fortified, and awaited the French attack.
From the French side, the plan is simple and urgent. Under headlong charge, speed is everything. I need to close the distance as fast as possible and bring this battle into hand-to-hand combat. Every moment spent advancing under English arrow fire risks bleeding away precious resolve points through arrow storm. Ideally, the first headlong charge roll, before the cards are drawn, will be a strong one. If the French can surge forward early, the lack of card draws may actually work in our favor, allowing us to reduce the distance quickly and limit the damage from English archers. The next obstacle will be the English traps laid in front of their line. Here fortune must favor the French. If the English roll stays below 8, the mounted knights may cross without injury, and that could be decisive. Once contact is made, everything depends on momentum. If the first wave can engage successfully and the second and third waves pass their morale test and deploy into the battlefield, I believe the weight of 3 attacking waves will be enough to grind down the English line and force a rout. From the English side, under Northampton, the aim is exactly the opposite. Time is my greatest ally. I'm hoping the French rolls and the cards drawn do not allow them to close the distance quickly. Every pause, every failed surge forward gives the English archers more time to do their work. Ideally, the card draw will allow me to unleash arrow storms, steadily weakening the French advance and stripping away resolve points before they reach my line. If the French arrive already worn down, the advantage in hand-to-hand combat shifts firmly in the English favor. The traps laid in front of the English position are critical. If they work as intended, they should further reduce the resolve of the French mounted man-at-arms, turning even elite knights into far easier opponents once contact is made. Realistically, I'm preparing to face only the first 2 French waves. If those waves are broken, I believe the third wave, made up of weaker troops from Morlaix and Lenoir, not hardened man-at-arms, will hesitate. I'm banking on them failing the required roll of 6 to deploy and willing to advance after witnessing the destruction of the French knights ahead of them. So the battle starts, and we're ready to roll for the headlong charge of Geoffrey de Charny, the first wave. It is very important, as we said in the battle plans, to reduce the distance as quickly as possible in order to avoid arrow storm. And as you can see, the first card is for the French. Very critical, because then they will have maybe another chance, if they're lucky, to move in melee or to get a Saint-Denis card and get boosts for movement. So very critical for the French and for the first draw of the headlong charge to be all French cards. Let's roll and see. And the French roll a 4. 4 inches, not the best roll. So that means +2 because they're mounted. They will go to 6 inches. And it's the first move, not the best, but still it's a start, considering that the next card is a French card, considering that it could be moving melee, so we can minimize the distance more. It's not bad, not good, but at least we'd avoid arrow storm, at least at this stage of the battle. It's very important for Geoffrey de Charny, who is moving coherently with his command, with his first wave. So we draw the next card, and it's a French card. Again, very critical for the French, and it's Saint-Denis. Very important. Everything is stacked the French way this time. Saint-Denis gives bonuses in hand-to-hand combat, in shooting, but gives also +2 inches if you decide to move. And obviously this is going to be the decision of Geoffrey de Charny and the French. We're going to roll for movement and get a +4 bonus, actually. So we have a 3, +4, it's going to be a 7. It could have been better. Again, the rolling is not good from the French, but the cards are stacked in their favor. So 7 inches, the French move even closer to the English, who the French have basically crossed more than half the distance, and the English haven't even shot 1 arrow. So this is what the French plan was based on. Try to move fast, try to avoid, try to have the cards in our favor. So currently the battle morale points, as we started, it's 9 against 9, so no resolve points have been reduced. So another card, Lucky French, another card is for the French. So if this is move and melee, this would be a disaster for the English. Let's roll the card, and it's move and melee. That means that unless they roll really badly, the French will reach the English lines without 1 arrow being fired. And this is exactly what the French plan was based on, to go quickly, gallop fast, and reach the English. So we roll, and we see that the French rolled a 9. Excellent. Rolling 9 inches plus 2, it's 11. It's more than enough to reach the English lines. And let's see how much it is. You see, it's basically 10. So 1 with 1 inch remaining. The French attack the English lines unhindered, without even one resolve point being removed from our storm. So they come in full power, in full strength. And this is very dangerous for the English. Their English last chance are the traps that can reduce resolve points for the French. 3 traps for every company of the French, and this is critical now for the English. They need to roll above 8 plus. So we're ready for our tests. We have, as we said, 3 in front of the English men at arms, 3 pits that could remove resolve point, 1 resolve point for the French. So the English need to roll an 8 plus in order to successfully injure and weaken the French knights. So obviously the most critical pit is the center pit, where we have Geoffrey de Charny leading his household knights, his men at arms, that can lead into injury and maybe even death for Geoffrey de Charny, and that will be a disaster for the French. So we're all an 8 plus, and to see what the first pit will do down here in the front on the right flank of the French, and the French roll an English roll, and they roll a 4. And the pit is not successful. The French reach the English without resolve point loss, and they will get also bonus for this because they're attacking with full strength, and they will get impact bonus. The second pit, the most critical, with Geoffrey de Charny, and another 4. So again, the pit is unsuccessful. The French mounted knights manage to go around the pits without any problem. And now we have the last pits on the extreme left flank of the French, and the English roll an 8, and that's a successful. The pit managed to do its work. The French fell in the pit, got injured, and 1 resolve point will be removed from the French, and instead of attacking with 4 resolve points, they will attack with 3. Great advantage for the English. This is critical. So we start hand-to-hand combat. The French have 8 battle morale points. The English have 9. The French because they lost 1 resolve point in the pits. Now the French will attack the left flank of the English, the left company of men-at-arms. They will attack with a +1 impact bonus because avoiding the pits gave them this impetuosity without reducing their speed. And we roll an 11 and a 6, and that means the +5 for the French. Great victory. Disastrous for the English because now they're going to lose 1 resolve point and they will drop from 4 to 3. It's a critical start for the French. Now the English have to pass a resolve test and make a decision. Will they continue fighting or will they turn tail? It's impossible for the English to turn tail at the moment. They have resolve points 3, they've lost only 1, and they cannot break the coherent line of Northampton. So they pass the resolve test, and with a -1 modifier for resolve points lost, they roll against the French, but the French again 9 against 4. They are superior, they're fighting hard, they are inspired by Geoffrey de Charny, and it's a +5. And that means another resolve point reduced for the English that they will drop to 2. Now, the situation is very, very critical. The English have to take a resolve test again. They have to pass and make a decision. If they fail it, they will break because they've lost already half their resolve points. So they have a +5 to pass with a -2 modifier because of the 2 resolve points lost. Very, very, very critical resolve test for the English to keep the coherence of the English lines. So they roll, and the English roll an 8, and that means they pass comfortably, and they will decide if they will turn tail or they will fight back. Again, they will fight back, hoping that they can manage to retaliate. They have a -2 modifier. So we roll, and the French roll and the English roll, and we roll a 12 and 10. And that means a +2 for the French. A mistake was made here, but we continue. And that means that another resolve point is reduced from the English, and they will drop to 1 resolve point. Things look very critical because now the English have to take a resolve test with -3 modifier. If they don't pass the resolve test, they will break. Also, the battle morale points, we see how the scales are turned. The French still have 8. The English have 6 because of the resolve points loss and the continuous hammering of the French knights, of the English men-at-arms. If the English break, if they lose one company here, things are not looking good because their flanks will be exposed. The English longbowmen are in wide formation. They cannot attack units who are in mass formation and haven't lost resolve points. They will be a mess. So resolve test for the English +7. They need to roll a +7 in order to pass and to avoid distraction and failure. So they roll, and they roll a 6, and disaster. The English fail their resolve test, and that means that the English company of men-at-arms protecting the left flank of Northampton breaks, is destroyed and removed from the table. Disastrous for the English. Even from the first charge, the French were relentless. They never stopped fighting. They never stopped pushing the English back. They avoided the trap, and that means that the English left flank is exposed. There is resolve points will be removed by the battle morale points, but the English men-at-arms, the English foot men-at-arms of Northampton are removed from the table. Great first victory for the French. Things are not looking good for the English. They are really exposed now on their flanks, and that is critical in the next move and melee card of the French. So we continue with hand-to-hand combat, and a very critical hand-to-hand combat between the companies of the two commanders. The French, under de Geffre de Charny, have a +1 impact bonus because they avoided the pits, so they didn't really lose their impetuosity. But it's a very critical hand-to-hand combat because in situations like this, commanders can be captured, and this will affect the whole army morale. So a critical hand-to-hand combat between the two commanders, and we roll a 2 and a 2. There is a +1 modifier for the impact bonus for the French. It's a 3 and a 2, but nothing happens. A +1 means we continue melee. So nothing serious, nothing that would create problems to any of the armies. Now we have hand-to-hand combat between the left flank mounted knights of the French, who already lost a resolve point because they fell in the pits, and the men-at-arms of Northampton, who are protecting his right flank. So it's a -1 modifier against the French mounted knights. We roll, and let's see, d12s, and we roll a 4 and a 5. With a -1, it's a 3 and a 5, and that means a +2 victory for the English. Another resolve point will be reduced for the French, and they will drop to 2. You see how important the pit was, and how important was that the French attacked with the reduced resolve points. And now they have to take a resolve test, and they need a 5+. They have a -2 for the 2 resolve points they lost. So let's see what the French will roll. And the French roll a 1, and it's a disaster. The French break when you've lost more half than your resolve points and you fail your resolve test. You break and you cannot come back. This is a great victory for the English and shows how important the pit was and in reducing the resolve points of the French and inadvertently destroying them. Now the balance is there. We have 5 battle morale points for every army. We don't have any advantage. The left flank of the English is exposed. Northampton is exposed. The right flank of the French is exposed. Geffre de Charny is exposed. We are in total balance in the battle, and we draw a card. And the card is move and melee. Now there is an opportunity for the French to move on the English left flank and try to outflank Northampton, giving him negative modifiers, and try to attack the English commander that would create problems in the coherence of his army. And we need to roll now and see how many inches they will be able to move. Don't forget that any maneuver needs 3 inches, so 3 from the die roll is reduced, and we roll a 9. A 9 means that this 3 maneuvering inches will be easily done. We're not going to have any problems. So let's see if the French manage to attack, although they're congested. It's not difficult to turn. They will attack in a glancing angle. But it was impossible to turn because of congestion, because of all the pits there, because of the English longbowmen. So they opted in moving and being ready there in the next move and melee card. They will turn around and they will be able to outflank the English, either by being the main company fighting or by being outnumbering company. So let's go into hand-to-hand combat now again. Critical hand-to-hand combat between the two companies of the two commanders, Geoffrey de Charny and Northampton. This is a straight roll here. Now, we don't have any modifiers, and we roll a 7 and a 9. That means a +2 victory for Northampton, and that means that Geoffrey de Charny has to take a resolve test and reduce his resolve points from 4 to 3. Currently, 5 battle morale points for the English, 4 for the French. The English balance the situation a bit. You see how things change depending on what's happening in combat. We need to take a resolve test of a +2 for Geoffrey de Charny, but he will have a -1 for the resolve point lost. But because the commander is attached, he'll get a +1. So Geoffrey de Charny rolls, and he rolls a 3, and he passes. So there is no problem there, a straight roll. Very close, but he managed to pass the resolve test, and he has to make a decision. And his decision is to fight back. He will fight back with -1 for resolve points lost, but the situation is not that bad for him. A -1 can be countered with a good roll. And it's a 10 and a 6, and Geoffrey de Charny fights back. It's a 9 and a 6. Basically, it's a +3 victory for Geoffrey de Charny. You see how scales turn. -1 resolve point for the English. Northampton falls at 3, and he has to take a resolve test. And you see how things change in hand-to-hand combat. Now, in a resolve test, Northampton needs a 2+, has a -1 resolve points for loss, but a +1 for being commander. So he rolls a 10 and he passes. Exactly the same like Geoffrey de Charny. So now Northampton has to make a decision. He has to turn tail or fight back. He has -1 modifier for resolve points lost, and he decides to fight back. We roll 2d12s. The two commanders fight hand in hand, but it's a disaster. It's a 9 and a 1, a +8 victory for Northampton, and a capture for Geoffrey de Charny. Geoffrey de Charny is captured. The one that they rolled is captured from the household knights of Northampton. Northampton men fought like lions, entered in the lines of Geoffrey de Charny, and they captured the French commander, who is now in the English camp, captured. This means -2 resolve points for the French, but at the same time, the English get a provisional +2 battle morale points until the time comes with the cards drawn that they will make the commander safe. So Geoffrey de Charny's command is in big trouble. His men-at-arms lost their commander. They have only 1 resolve point remaining, and they are in big trouble. Very big trouble. Situations are difficult for the first wave of the French. They have to take a resolve test with a +6 in order to succeed with all these modifiers removed. And obviously, the Geoffrey de Charny is not there to give them a bonus. So we're rolling. Let's see, it's critical roll. And we roll a 5 and we fail. A failure. And that means that Geoffrey de Charny's company is destroyed, and it leaves the table. The knights saw Geoffrey de Charny's command breaking, his commanders captured, and they couldn't fight anymore. So we have battle morale points now, 4 for the English and 0 for the French. So we're all for second wave flight tests, and we're all an 8. We wanted a 3+, so no problem. Blois deploys normally, and we're ready for the headlong charge before any card is drawn, and it's a 12 +2 inches bonus for mounted. It's 14. Again, things are not looking good for the English. 14 inches, the first move, almost more than half of the distance between the French and the English is covered already. battle morale points, 9 for the new fresh wave of the French, 4 with a provisional 2 extra for the English if Geoffrey de Charny is made safe. So we draw a card, and this is not the card that the English want. Move and melee, it's a wasted card. The English don't want to get out of their defensive position. They're not going to get out of the line. They're not going to ignore the pits, so they stay there. But move and melee for the French, a disaster for the English. Disaster for the English, because now the French will definitely reach the English positions without any shooting from the English archers. So we're all in 9 inches, plus 2 for mounted, it's 11. Comfortably, the French will reach the English lines without any problem and without any arrow shot again in this second wave by the English archers. The English archers currently are a non-factor to the battle. So the French reach the English lines. They have now to tackle the pits, and the hand-to-hand combat is imminent. The French are fresh. They haven't lost any resolve points. So let's start with the pit test, and we start from the right flank of the French. The English need an 8+ to remove a resolve point for the French. We saw in the left flank of the previous wave how critical even this one resolve point is, and the English roll, and they roll a pit 1, and they roll a 3. Again, they're unsuccessful. Now we're rolling for pit number 2, and this is critical because it's the company of Count of Blois. He may be injured or even die. We never know if the English roll well. And we roll and we see, and it is a 6, again, unsuccessful. And now the last pit on the extreme left flank of the French, and this pit was successful before, and it's successful now, 9. That pit seems to be constructed better than others, and this will mean that 1 resolve point will be removed from the French knights, and they will go from 4 to 3. So we're going to hand-to-hand combat, and the French, the charge, decide to start from the center. Count of Blois against the Earl of Northampton. The center is very important for the French because it will be possible for them to just destroy by maybe capturing or killing the Count of Blois. Now, the French have a +1 impact bonus because they avoided the trenches, and the English have a -1 because they lost resolve point from the previous battle. So you see the wave of Geoffrey de Charny created problems, so the English are not in full strength, and that's great advantage, as you see, being hand-to-hand combat. So we roll, and we roll a 12 and a 2. Disaster for the French. A +9 for the English because it's a natural 12, but it's -1, so it's 11, and a 3 basically for the French. So it's a 9. A 9 would mean a -2 resolve points for the mounted man-at-arms of Count of Blois. So from 4 resolve points, they will drop to 2 resolve points. And you see how important this is in melee. Immediately, 2 resolve point minus, it's a great advantage for the opponents. But the most critical is that the natural 12 means that the Count of Blois is captured. The English captured the second great commander of the French. He's taking back in the English camp, and another 2 provisional points are given to the battle morale points of the English army. The English household knights of Northampton are fighting like lions. They are unstoppable. They enter inside the French lines and they captured Blois. So 6 battle morale points for the second wave of the French, 4 with a provisional 4 for the English, and they need a secure commander's cards, as you can see, in order to be able to make these points materialize and don't lose them again. Because the French have the ability, if they roll a 12, or if the English roll a 1, they can recapture one of their commanders. Geoffrey de Charny cannot fight back again, but he can be recaptured and reduce these battle morale points for the English, and then English suddenly, instead of 8, they will be still at 4. So very critical melee in the next round, because the English need to hold to these battle morale points. They need to hold these commanders. They need to make them safe and secure in the lines of the English, far away from the battlefield. Now the French have to take a resolve test. Now they need a 5+ in order to pass, because they lost 2 resolve points. They have basically a -2. And they are, indeed, they need to pass the test, because if they fail, they will break, having lost already 2 resolve points. So we roll, let's see, for the French command, and they roll a 10, and they're successful, and they pass. No problem there for the French. So the Knights of Blois decide to fight on. They don't want to turn tail. They want to recapture the commander. They have -2 modifier for the resolve points lost. The English have -1. So let's roll d12 and let's see. And we have a 1 and a 12. Disaster for the French. -3 resolve points plus 12 victory for the English. And this could have been, if the commanders were still attached, the French commander was still attached, the English would have captured the commander again. So -3 resolve points, that means that the French knights, the knights of Count of Blois, the household knights, are destroyed and removed from the battlefield. They couldn't handle their commander's capture. They tried too hard to enter the English lines. They tried too hard to break the lines of the English to reach him, and it was not enough. The English destroyed them. Currently, we have 4 battle morale points for the French, 4 battle morale for the English, with a provisional +4 for the English when the commanders are captured safely back to English hands. Now, the center division is removed, the center company is removed, and the balance of the battle is turning towards the English again. Now, the English have problems in general with the cards. The English archers are non-factors yet. They haven't shot anything. They haven't shot an arrow storm. Now, they cannot shoot an arrow storm because the French are not in headlong charge. And again, we have another French card, and it's moving melee. And let's see now what the French will do. Most probable action for the French will be the right French company of men-at-arms will try to charge the Northampton's men-at-arms in a glancing angle. They won't be able to charge and have a full contact, and obviously with a continued melee from the extreme flank, where still the French men-at-arms are in contact with the English men-at-arms. So let's try and see if we can do a maneuver. Remember, the maneuver is 3 inches, and then we can move straight in order to attack Northampton's division. And we roll a 4. A 4 plus 2 is a 6. I don't think there is enough movement left after we reduce 3 inches for the maneuvering. So we turn the French around, and let's see if they can. No, they cannot reach the English. It's a 4 distance, 4 inches, and they have only 3 remaining. So they can move and attack in the next round. And currently, we have now to continue hand-to-hand combat with the remaining division of the French men-at-arms. The French men-at-arms fight with a -1 because of the resolve point loss due to the pits. And let's roll and see. So we're rolling d12s, and we roll an 8 and a 6. An 8 for the English, a 6 for the French, a +3 victory because the 6 will become 5. A +3 victory, another resolve point loss for the French mounted knights, who will drop at 2. Remember, they lost 1 resolve point also because of the pits. And now they have to take a resolve test. They need a +5. They have a -2 modifier because they lost their resolve points. It's critical they pass, and to see what they do next, they roll a 10 and they pass. But now they have to make a decision. Will they fight back, or will they turn tail? I think they want to fight back. They're hoping that the roll will favor them. So the French roll with a -2 modifier, and we roll d12s, and let's see, and we have a 3 and a 7, a disaster, a +6 victory for the English. So the French lose 1 resolve point, and now they will drop at 1. The situation is very critical for the French mounted knights on the left flank. They have to pass a resolve test, and they have to make a decision what they will do next, if they were not going to fight back the English with 1 resolve point remaining, or they will turn tail. Basically, they passed the resolve test, although they had a -3, and they decided to turn tail and try to strengthen their resolve in a future strength and resolve card that definitely will pop up at a point. Now, the best thing to do is turn tail and be out the deadly zone, or the deadly zone of the archers of 10 inches, that the archers get a +1 positive modifier, although the archers haven't drawn any arrows yet. The card will come very soon. So we roll a 9 plus 2 is an 11, and they will move 11 inches further away from the original position. They're turning tail. They're trying to recover. They're trying to strengthen their resolve, trying to get stronger and come back to support their comrades, trying to capture back their commander, the Count of Brittany, the Count of Blois. So it's a very, very important time for a Strength and Resolve card to appear for the French, who currently have the favor of the cards, the favor of the stack. And again, another French card, and this will be aimed fire and strength and resolve. So whatever French need, they draw. So aimed fire, the French don't have any missile troops, but they will strengthen their resolve. They will do a strength and resolve test, and because this is the first time it appears on the battle, and we're going to see how this works. So for strengthen and resolve, basically a company needs to roll an 8+, minus plus modifiers. So the French have -3 for the resolve points loss and -1 for being isolated because they're further away from the support distance of the mounted knights. That's 4 inches. So they have a -4 modifier. They need to roll an 8 to pass, so the French need a 12. And they need to roll a very, very difficult roll to manage to succeed. But you never know with Test of Resolve this appears. You see they're further away of 4 inches from their comrades. So they're trying now to roll D12. Things are not looking good for the French, but you never know how in this battle things turn. It rolls 11, very close in strengthening the resolve, but unfortunately they were unsuccessful. Now we draw another card, and it's for the French, and it's Saint-Denis, and it's a +2 modifier, and I'm going to use it this time for hand-to-hand combat. The gods of the cards are favoring the French. And the French now we're going to move. You have the ability of moving 2 inches and using a +2 Saint-Denis modifier against the -1 because of the resolve point loss of Northampton. So if in this case, because the French are attacking in a glancing angle, they're not going to get the +1 modifier. So a +3 -1, so basically a +2 would have been excellent advantage for the French. But because they're attacking and they're charging in a glancing angle, impact bonus is not applicable in this situation. So let's roll and see what the French and the English will roll. It's a very critical roll. We roll D12s, Northampton against the French mounted knights of Blois, who is currently captured, as we know. And we roll, and it's roll a 12 and a 7. A disaster. It's a +8 for the French. A disaster is basically 14 and 6. It's a disaster for the English. And let me tell you what this means. This means that the English lose 2 resolve points. That means that Northampton will drop at 1, and his men at arms are in a very, very critical state. But the most important is that the natural 12 means that the French have a choice, either capturing Northampton or freeing their commander, the Count of Blois. And obviously they decide to recapture back the Count of Blois to have them led again into victory. So Blois is recaptured, and he's back with his men-at-arms, leading them to victory. And the morale of the French is raising. Now, the battle morale points, we have 3 for the French, now Blois is back, and 2 for the English, with a +2 to be added to the English battle morale point when Geoffroy de Charny is secured in the back when the card appears. Now, the English have only 1 resolve point. Things are not looking good for Northampton and for Northampton's men-at-arms, and they have to take a resolve test. And a very difficult resolve test. They need a 6+ in order to pass, but they have a +1 modifier because Northampton is attached to the unit. When a commander is attached to the unit, it gives you a +1, except the negative modifiers you have by when you're losing resolve points. So the English need a 6+ in order to successfully manage to survive and not break, and they roll an 8, and they successfully pass the test. But now they have a major choice: or they will fight back, or they will turn tail. It's very dangerous for Northampton at the moment to fight back with 1 resolve point. He will have a -3 negative modifier, and he doesn't have Blois anymore. Things are looking critical for the English, and the best thing would be for the Northampton to roll a die, turn tail, and try to strengthen his resolve further away from the French mounted knights. Again, this is risky. because the French mounted knights can now envelop the English, can follow up, can hunt him down if they're all high enough in the next move and melee card. But there is no other option, I think. Northampton needs to turn tail and try to strengthen his resolve, even though he will basically break the English line. Now, a couple of things I need to mention strategic-wise is, except that the archers are currently a non-factor, I was hoping we will draw an Arrowstorm card before the French arrived in both, actually, waves before they reached the English. This didn't happen. But at the same time, the archers, I'm not committing them into battle, because in order for the archers to fight, they need to change into mass formation. They need to do a maneuver, expend 3-inch cost, and be able to charge. And this would mean when they form a mass formation and they take out their melee weapons, as per the rules, the English archers cannot change to wide formation again and shoot, so I would lose my Arrowstorm or aim fire ability. The second is that in order to attack the English longbowmen, they have to attack weak troops. When I say weak troops, we mean troops that have lost 2 resolve points, they're weaker, or troops that are isolated. They cannot charge anyone, and this is very historically accurate, so they can be used for flank attacks. And at the moment, in this situation, the French men-at-arms were very strong. They had 4 or 3 resolve points, and the ones who had 2 resolve points basically were destroyed. So Northampton decides to turn tail, and we have to roll and see how far we'll go. A dangerous decision because he leaves his flanks exposed, and the French may hunt him down, but it's required. So we roll it is 12, and let's see what will be the result in inches, and we roll 6 inches. Not bad, not good, but with 1 resolve point remaining, Northampton should turn tail. So Northampton tails tail, falls back, and he will try to strengthen his resolve. Although strengthening resolve, we see how difficult it is with only 1 resolve point remaining. But Northampton is attached to his company, and he gives a +1 bonus modifier. So Northampton turn tail, and then we have to see what the French will do and what will be the next move. And now the distance between the French and the English is not that far. So maybe in the next card, if it's a move and melee, Blois will decide to hunt down and try to attack Northampton from the rear. So another card for the French, and it's milling around, so it means they do nothing. And we have a card for the English, and it's Secure Commanders. It's a great card because now the English can secure these 2 points from Geoffrey de Charny, 3 battle morale points to 4. And at last, aim fire and strengthen resolve. Aim fire for the English archers. They can at last do something in this battle, and maybe they can help their men-at-arms weaken or even destroy the French knights. Now, Arrowstorm is not applicable here because Arrowstorm is applicable only when your opponents are in headlong charge, and after melee, the French are not in headlong charge anymore. So now let's check. We have shooting, and we have 2 companies of archers that they're going to shoot. Both can shoot against the mounted knights. We said aim fire before because the French are not in headlong charge. So let's see what the English longbowmen will do and if they will succeed. So we start with the company of longbowmen in the bottom of your screen, and aim fire requires 8+. We haven't done fire yet, so let me explain to you. It requires 8+ to hit plus and minus modifiers. Now, obviously, the French knights of Blois are in close range, and there won't be any negative modifiers for shooting. Let's see a bit better. So it's a +1 modifier for shooting shooting mounted. The English need thus +8. Actually, it's a 9+ for successfully shooting, but the English have the +1 modifier because they're shooting at knights, and they roll a 3. A terrible roll. The first archers shooting, and it's a disaster. Now we have the other archers with aimed fire. They need a 9+. They have a +1 modifier for shooting archers, but what I told you before, they are outside 10 and 15-inch range, so they have, because they are outside 10th inches. They have a -1 modifier for the range. This was very critical. That's why I told you the French should turn tail and be further than the 10-inch distance. And they roll a 5. And it's a terrible roll. Again, the English archers didn't manage to do much against the French. Now we have strengthened the resolve, and this is a good time if Northampton can strengthen his unit's resolve. He needs an 8 pass to pass, but he has a -3 resolve points, -1 for being isolated, and a +1 for being a commander. So he needs an 11 plus, a quite difficult role for Northampton. And let's see if he's going to pass. You see, when you're isolated and you don't have supports around you, your strength and resolve tests are very difficult. So let's roll the d12 and let's see what Northampton will roll. And he rolls a 9. +1 a 10, but not successful. Actually, we have the minuses as well. So let's draw cards, and this is Secure Commanders for the French. It's not applicable yet. And we draw another card, and let's see, and it's Aim Fire, Arrow Storm, and Strength and Resolve. Now, at last, the Aim Fire and Arrow Storm are appearing now in the draw, and maybe the English Knights will have a better, more success this time. Again, you can see they are within range and within their shooting angle. And the shooting is going to be exactly the same as we did before. We're going to shoot at the men-at-arms, the mounted men-at-arms of Blois, and the knights in the north, the longbowmen in the north, are going to shoot at the mounted knights who are fleeing. So again, 9 plus we have, a +1 modifier for shooting mounted, and -1 for the range. We're shooting first at with a longbowman in the top of your screen, so they need a 9 plus in order to successfully hit and remove a resolve point for the French, and that will be very critical because they have 1 resolve point remaining, and that means they would be destroyed. And let's see again, what is the status? Let me show you again. So shooting at mounted, a +1, and for every resolve point loss, minus -1, the English longbowmen have not lost resolve points, and obviously in the range of 10 to 15 and -1, the critical range. And as I said again, the French are at 11 inches from the English, so the -1 modifier is applicable. So let's roll for the English and see if they'll do the fare better in this one. And we roll. And it's a 4. Again, unsuccessful, bad shooting for the English. Things are not looking good for them. And now let's shoot again. They have a +8 here because of the range. They are in close range. And they have a +1 modifier for shooting mounted. So they need an 8 plus. The same again. Let's roll and see for the English if this time they will be more lucky. And we roll. And they roll a 5. Again, terrible shooting from the English archers, who have not been a factor at all in this battle. Even melee-wise, nothing really happening. Now we are going to continue with the strengthen and resolve of Northampton. Let's try and see. It's exactly the same roll. He needs 8 plus to pass, -3 for the resolve points lost, -1 for being isolated, +1 for being a commander, as you can see here from the table. So he needs an 11 plus, a quite high and difficult roll to complete. So to succeed, to hit. So let's roll and see. And we're rolling a d12 again, and it's a 6 again. Nothing. No success for Northampton, who is doing its best to raise his men's morale. Now, another card for the English, very important, and it's an event. We don't have events in this battle, and this time is for the French, and this is Aim Fire and Strengthen Resolve. The French will try to strengthen the resolve or the mounted knights who are turning tail, and they're under hail of English fire, but they haven't been shot yet, so they will try to strengthen the resolve of the men-at-arms. We have 3 battle morale points for the French, 4 battle morale points for the English, and we're going to strengthen the resolve of this unit of men-at-arms. Blois men-at-arms are strong with 4 resolve points. They haven't lost even 1, and it's going to be a difficult roll, obviously, the same like Northampton's with negative modifiers, and because they don't have any commanders attached, they're not going to even get the +1. They're also isolated, as you can see. So they need a 12. They have 8 plus to pass, as you see in the table. -3 for resolve points and -1 for being isolated. No positive modifiers for the French knights. Now, these are difficult rolls and sometimes are a double-edged knife. If you fail, you're destroyed immediately. So let's have a look and see what the French will do. And they roll an 11. Very close, although they have a -3. They have a -4, and they wouldn't even reach there. Actually, they needed a plus, so 11, very close. And we have move and melee card. A move and melee card for the French, very critical now because, first of all, we're going to move the turning tail men at arms. But the most importantly is we're going to see if we can catch Northampton, and the French need 8 inches. They have +2 for mounted. They have 11, so they need 8 inches roll and roll of 8 in order to catch Northampton and attack him in the rear. Very, very well, not an easy roll, an 8, but it's critical if they catch Northampton from the rear, and they will get positive modifiers. And this will be a very big problem for the English if Northampton is captured or if his company is destroyed. So let's roll a very, very critical roll for the French. And it's a 12, and they catch him for sure. 12 plus 2 is 14. 14 inches definitely cover the distance between Northampton and the mounted knights. First of all, we need to turn the French here. They need 3 inches to turn to do a maneuver. Let them having facing the English, and maybe we'll strengthen the resolve, and then we can charge and get impact bonuses, although raising the resolve it's quite difficult. So we turn around the French men at arms, who still they're not going to commit themselves. They have 1 resolve point, and they are in danger of being destroyed. But now the most important move of the turn is the Count of Blois and his knights, who are under full strength of 4 resolve points, haven't lost 1. They're attacking in the rear Northampton, and that would be a disaster. Northampton will fight, but he will fight with negative modifiers of a -1 plus the impact the French will have. This is a difficult situation for Northampton, who also may be captured. So he has -1 for a rare attack and -3 for the resolve points loss, and the French have a +1 for shock. So this is -4 against the +1, and this looks very, very difficult for Northampton. Again, I'm telling you, if this French score a 12, or if Northampton scores a 1, the French can capture Northampton, and this would be a disaster for the English. So a very critical melee, and a very critical time on the for the battle, because this could turn the tides, maybe could finish the battle if Northampton is either captured or if his company is destroyed and they're removed from the battlefield. So let's roll D12s and let's see what is happening, and let's see the result. And it's a 4 and a 9. Excellent for Northampton, but Northampton has a -4, so he goes to 5, +1 for the shock for Blois, so it's a draw. It's a draw. Northampton's men fought like lions, and they managed to withstand the shock from the rare attack and the mounted knights. And that's amazing. Northampton manages to survive with a draw without any losses. And we continue. The melee will continue in the next round. And again, a French card. The French have the card's advantage. I mean, they are controlling the battle. And we have an end turn. This means nothing until the end turn. The English end turn is appearing. Again, blank card, nothing happens here. And we continue with move and melee and arrow storm. Arrow storm we don't have, but we can have move and melee. And this is a card where I can use, if I roll high enough, I can use my other company of man-at-arms to attack the French in the flanks. Now that French committed are inside, deep inside within the English lines, I can use the move of melee card in order for us to attack, as you can see, Blois' man-at-arms, and try to balance the battle a bit. So we have move and melee and arrow storm for the English. And I don't know if I did it correctly because arrow storm usually has also aimed fire option, and this card didn't have. But I continued with aimed fire. I assume that the English have the option. They cannot shoot an arrow storm, and they can shoot at the same target. So we're aiming at the same target. The modifiers are the same, a 9 plus. For +1 shooting against mounted and -1 for the range. And let's hope this time the English archers will be more successful and they will be able to destroy the French mounted knights and turn the balance. So we roll for the first company of English in the north, and they roll a 1. Disaster for the English. They are out of supplies. When you roll a 1 and you're not well supplied, it means you are out of supply and you cannot shoot anymore. You can only be a melee company. Disaster. These things are becoming worse and worse for the English, and the archers are a non-factor regarding shooting at the moment. Let's shoot now at the same target with the archers in the bottom of the screen, and they roll a 9. Total different result. A 9 is a hit. The English wanted a 9 plus, and that means that the French lose 1 resolve point and they are destroyed and removed from the battlefield. And this is a great opportunity now for the English to turn and gang up against Blois' company. Things are looking good for the English. The immediate threat from the front has been eliminated. The battle morale points, it's 2 against 4. So the English have the upper hand, and now in the move and melee card, they will move the company of men-at-arms currently on the side, in the flanks of Blois. They will turn around and they will charge Blois, giving him an option of being attacked in the flanks. So they're all 4 inches, a terrible, terrible roll actually for the English. They need 3 inches to turn. And let's see if the 1 inch is possible to give them the extra boost they need in order to charge the Blois company. Now, automatically, the English of Northampton will turn because flank attack is applicable only for 1 round. And I made a mistake here, a big mistake. The melee is ongoing. There should not be a gap. I don't know how this happened. So the melee was ongoing, so they should have been in contact. So it's sometimes when you shoot a video, do the commentary. Try to find correct angles, you make mistakes. So now with 3 inches, we turn around the company of men-at-arms of Blois. They're turning around, and now we're going to see if they have enough movement, although I don't believe to reach Blois and attack him at a glancing angle. I don't believe they have. The distance is further than 1 inch. The roll of the English was not good. The move and melee roll, and we're out of that situation when now Blois is basically, you can see it's more than 1 inch, is 3 inches, so it just move 1 inch, and in the next round they will fight. Now the problem is that I should have fight melee between Northampton and Blois. That was a mistake. I don't know how I did this, but what can we do? We proceed. Many small mistakes here and there didn't really change the way the battle would have finished, but this was a mistake that I should not have done. The melee should have continued. Regardless, we continue now, and we will draw the next card, and this is for the French, and it is a blank card, so nothing happens here. And another card for the English, which aimed fire, arrow storm. You see what I'm talking about, and strength and resolved. So you see aimed fire and arrow storm. It gives you the option. In the other card, it didn't give you the option. It gave you only arrow storm. So, well, let's give it some poetic license. So now the French, the English cannot shoot at anyone at the moment. There is no valid target because either you have to shoot before you move, so you have to turn. If you do a maneuver, you cannot shoot. So currently, it's wasted. Most probably, they need to turn and then to shoot in a later stage. So we have to strengthen the resolve of Northampton. Again, 11 plus to succeed, 8 plus to pass, -3 for resolve points, -1 for being isolated, but +1 for the commander being attached to the unit. So we need an 11 plus, a very difficult role for Northampton's man to successfully, and Northampton needs it now, needs a 2. A 1 is very, very dangerous at the moment because definitely there will be another round of melee. So we roll and see if Northampton can strengthen his resolve and his man. No, he rolls a 3, terrible 3, disaster. Nothing happens, and still Northampton has 1 resolve point. So we draw another card, and it's move and melee and aim fire for the English, and let's see what is going to happen. A move and melee, probably both companies, Northampton's and his men-at-arms in the flank of the French, will move and attack simultaneously the French, and the French will be also outnumbered. But let's see what we roll for movement, and we roll 10 inches, and that's fantastic. I made a mistake here. I should have mobilized also the English archers, because even if this wave destroyed and they moved, in the third wave, every redeployment starts from the scratch. So both English companies are attacking the French mounted knights of Blois. Remember, Blois has full strength, has 4 resolve points. So I'm making primary unit, the unit of Northampton, and secondary unit, pressing unit, outnumbering unit, the company in the flank of Blois. So let's see what is going to be the result. Let's see again now. We have a total of -2 for the English. They have a +1 for outnumbering, a -3 for the resolve points loss of Northampton. This is another strategic mistake I made. I should have probably made a primary unit, the unit in the flanks, and Blois has a -2 for being isolated, and that would have given me a better chance of winning, because the company on the flank of Blois doesn't. I don't remember. It doesn't have a lot resolve points loss, and they would have been the outnumbering would have been gained from Blois' participation on the battle. So regardless, strategic mistakes happen. Obviously, it's not a big issue. So let's roll and see a face-off, and we roll an 8 and a 6, and that means that it's a victory of a +2 for the French, and that means a resolve point loss for Northampton and a disaster. A disaster. The English are broken, and Northampton's company and his household knights are removed from the battlefield. They are destroyed. They're all killed. Now, it's a very critical situation, because now we have 2 battle morale points for the French, 3 battle morale points for the English. We are at very difficult situation now for the English, who are lost Northampton's men-at-arms, but the battle morale points are very close, and obviously the English, if they survive, have to face another a wave coming up with the city militia. So Northampton's men-at-arms are out, and now we have to see if Northampton will escape. When you roll a 1 or a 12, you're captured immediately. But when your unit is destroyed, then your company is destroyed, then you have to roll for capture commander table. And you can see here capture commander table. When a company is eliminated and in contact with enemy, you need a 5+. So the French need to roll a 5+ in order to capture Northampton. Otherwise, Northampton escapes to the closest unit, to the closest company, friendly company, and that would be the men-at-arms on the flanks of the French mounted knights of Blois. So a 5+ for Northampton. I think strategic-wise, I made some mistakes, especially for the English. I could have, I think the archers could have been, now that they don't have an opponent, could have been a factor, but move them, put them in mass formation and attack Blois, although there is a specific number of units that can be attacked. But nevertheless, I think the situation now is difficult for the English, because if this role is critical, if Northampton is captured, we're going to have a problem. We're going to lose basically 2 battle morale points, and it's a disaster. So a 5+ for the French, and they roll a 1, a terrible 1, a disaster for the French, a very bad roll, and they don't. It's a 5+ was not a difficult roll to successfully capture Northampton. So Northampton survives, and he runs to the safety of his remaining men-at-arms, the company of men-at-arms, who is fighting currently Blois. And let's draw another card, and the card is move and melee for the French, and there is only 1 unit, 1 company of Blois remaining in the second wave, and Blois will roll now, but obviously will turn around automatically because the flank attack is only valid for 1 round, and then you turn around. So basically you turn around automatically. We don't need to roll anything. We need to do just melee here. And we need to see what's going to be the result. Don't forget, Northampton now is attached to the new company, but also don't forget that Blois division, Blois company, has full resolve points. So we're all at 2 and an 11. A disaster, +9 for the English. Northampton is fighting with his man-at-arms. -2 resolve points. They will drop at 2. -2 resolve points for Blois. Very lucky Blois is not captured. He 11, a natural 12 captures Blois. So very lucky Blois is not captured. You see how the battle balances, the balance goes left and right. So 0 battle morale points for the French, 3 battle morale points for the English, and a disaster for Blois. So Blois has to take a resolve test, and he needs a 5+. He has a -2 for the resolve points loss, -1 for being isolated, and +1 for commander. And it's a difficult role, but he can succeed. He's there. He's a commander. He gives a +1 modifier. So let's roll and see. And this is very critical. And he rolls a 3, and he's destroyed. He's routed, and it's a disaster. The second wave of the French is totally destroyed, and it's a great victory for the English, considering the situation they were under. A very, very important win, and Blois company is out. Now, the problem is that I made another mistake, but now that previous to battle, when Northampton was destroyed, the support should have turned tail. Now, obviously, again, we had a move in melee card, and Blois would have charged. The English would have get a +1 modifier for impact, and the difference between the English roll and the French roll was too big in order to be covered. But again, another mistake. So when the main unit, the main company is destroyed, the supporting companies need to turn tail, and they cannot keep contact with their opponent. So that one mistake we did here that should have been rectified. So now we're waiting for the third wave. The third wave, the English are redeployed. So we're rolling for the militia. We're rolling for the third wave to see if they will pass the wave flight test. This time they need a +6. These, don't forget, there is only one company of man-at-arms under an unknown captain from Morlaix, most probably, and the rest are good-going and poor-going troops. Basically, the rest are militia. So let's roll. Let's see. They need a 6+, and they roll a 3, and they flee. They see their commanders. It makes sense. They see their commanders. They see their nobles all captured. They see their man-at-arms all dying, and obviously the militia are not going to be bothered. They don't want to fight the English. They are retreating. And obviously now Northampton falls back steadily but safely inside the woods and avoids any further battle that would have probably been a disaster for the English. So victory for the English. A great victory for the English. And let's see now the historical aftermath.
The historical outcome. This French attack was typical of the early stages of the 100 Years' War. The 2 lines of cavalry charged in turn, taking heavy casualties from the English archers and being severely hampered by the pits that had been dug in front of the English position. However, a substantial force of their infantry remained uncommitted, allowing Northampton to withdraw cautiously into the woods, where they were harried for a few days before being able to fully withdraw.
So we said a great victory for the English. A couple of mistakes, strategic-wise, for sure, that I should have probably mobilized the archers earlier. When I saw in the second wave there was no opponent, I should have turned them into mass formation and attacked Blois. Then it would have been easier to finish the second wave for the English. The mistakes I did for by the rules, I don't think we had anything critical. The most critical mistake was obviously that the English supporting company, after the destruction of the household knights of Northampton, should have turned tail. That would have given the option to Blois maybe to turn and attack the vulnerable archers in the flanks, or do anything else. He would have had the ability to maneuver. So that was, I think, the most important mistake on the battle. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and bye-bye.